Hey guys, this is GhostRobo, and we are here with Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Wii. And as we go through the intro movie here, let me break down my Donkey Kong Country history. I played every single Donkey Kong Country game, and they're actually some of my favorite games of all time. I really liked Donkey Kong almost more than Mario, Super Mario World in particular, the SNES, primarily because the Donkey Kong games are more focused on the platforming, where I feel like the Mario games are more focused on your interaction with the enemies. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but most of my deaths in Super Mario World and similar Mario franchise games seem to come from running into enemies as opposed to falling off platforms. Whereas I feel like the enemies are more inconsequential in Donkey Kong Country, and it's more about how crazy and how insane of designs can they come up with level-wise, and I like that a lot better. So far, I'm not really feeling the character design very much in Returns. They swapped out the Kremlings and sort of the Koopa, or not Koopa, but King K. Rool gang for these tikis in an effort to, what I would assume is kind of make it more child-friendly, more Saturday morning cartoon-esque. Just by the intro, you can kind of tell they're really trying to rack in that crowd. The weird part is, this game, even more so than Mario Galaxy, seems to be targeted at the guys who played Donkey Kong Country in the past. The game is super challenging and has a lot of callbacks to those original titles. So this was actually my most anticipated game of 2010. As soon as the Wii came out, and as soon as the Virtual Console was announced, actually, I was super excited for the Donkey Kong games to be put on the VC. And then with WiiWare, I was really hoping, and when they were initially discussing WiiWare, Nintendo's going to make games for it as well. I was hoping that they would come out with a new Donkey Kong Country 4 for WiiWare. And that never materialized, and it doesn't seem like it's going to at this point. So as soon as E3 rolled around this year, and there was rumors of a new Donkey Kong, I was super excited. And then when Retro Studios was handed the game, phenomenal. They did a great job sort of revitalizing and refreshing the Metroid Prime series, and they did, so far, an equally good job with Donkey Kong, save these goofy tikis. This is probably more story than any Donkey Kong game has had in the past, but it's not too terrible. Once you get through it, you get into the game. And so far, what I played, it's very challenging from the get-go. There's really no holds barred. They kind of throw it all at you and get you going right from the start. I'm super excited to see later on how tough it gets, because I know the later levels, especially in Donkey Kong Country 2, were some of my favorites. The bramble levels where you're going through all the spike tree places up in the sky. Really love those levels. There's a lot of Wiimote integration, especially early on here with Donkey Kong. You can blow little dandelions, ground pound. Later on, you'll see me be able to roll, and then the like. I'm not sure how I feel about Wiimote integration. I'd probably rather play this with a D-pad, because the controls are a little bit loose with the nunchuck, but for the full, intended experience, I figured I might as well go with, the Wiimote nunchuck setup. So that's what I'm going to be playing this playthrough with, and there's a ton of secrets in this game, more so, I feel, than the Super Nintendo classics. You've got puzzle pieces, you've got these little gold coins, you've got the typical Kong letters, and then you've got bananas. And so it's sort of a great time extender for each level when you can go and blow on each and every little dandelion or ground pound every area to find what you're looking for. There might be a few deaths here early on. I think there might just be one in this first level, and I apologize. Just getting used to the controls. We'll try to keep it very low death for the rest of the game. But again, you can see that it's very, very a lot of good nostalgia for the original Donkey Kong. I'm not sure how I feel about this pig guy. Not really feeling him, why he's popping up everywhere. But I do like these little birds. They remind me more of the Kremlings than the Tikis do. And I like the red balloons and all the stuff that you're familiar with. Something that I'm not sure if you can notice from this video, but that really stuck out to me after playing for a few hours, is that the perspective is definitely shifted and more zoomed out than Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. It does zoom in more like in these situations, but I feel like DK is just smaller on screen than he was in the past. There definitely is a lot more going on in the backgrounds, but I'm not sure graphically how I feel. It looks great for a Wii game, and I think this is the best style they could have come up with. I just have a real soft spot for the Super Nintendo Donkey Kong graphics, and it would have been really cool if they could have maybe gone on, I don't know, a cel-shaded variant of those, or even just a slightly tweaked upgrade from those graphics. But again, you have a two-heart system here, so there is a little bit of leeway if you're going to run into an enemy. But again, the enemies don't seem to be the main attraction nor the main challenge in this game. It's all about the platforming, which I like. There is some creative different enemies. I like the different effects with the frogs flying to the foreground, and they really do a lot to try to spice up the environments. And I wish if you think back to Donkey Kong Country on SNES, that was one of its key points as well, that it was doing different things with the environments and the backgrounds that games hadn't done in the past. Not to say that this hasn't been done, but they really went sort of all out in terms of special effects and things going on as we have butterflies flying everywhere. And those puzzle pieces are kind of, I wonder if they're a callback to Rare in the Banjo-Kazooie franchise, because that's, of course, what you're collecting in Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. But, I don't know. There are a lot in each level, and I was very surprised when I ended some of the levels with only 3 out of 9 or 5 out of 9, and I felt like I, searched every corner. This O here, I am not sure how I'm supposed to get, and actually, I was sort of getting adjusted to the controls still, so I'm not sure I was missing something, but yeah, there's going to be a couple deaths in a row here while I try to jump off and get this letter. Diddy is waiting for us in this barrel, so we're going to see him right now, and in the co-op mode, he would be able to fire his peanut guns, but in single player, he just serves as a 2-heart bonus and a jetpack boost. Apparently, it's not a very strong jetpack, because there is no chance we're getting out of that hole with Diddy. So my other thought here was, hey, let's try throwing the barrel. That typically works in Donkey Kong, and we, of course, miss the O on that try. So we're going to go and jump off and die again to go for the letter. And after this little death streak here, I made the decision that for this playthrough, I'm not going to try to get every secret, because it would just be too time-consuming and too annoying. As you can see there, I go right through the O. I'm not sure how you're supposed to get that, and I can't seem to figure out how to throw Diddy like you could in the past games. I'm not sure if that's an option, if I'm just blanking on it or what, but it doesn't seem to be. And as you can see, there's tons of those dandelions, tons of things to ground pound, so you're all over the place in terms of, breaking up your level progression, and in a way that's good because there's so many different secrets, but in a way it's kind of frustrating that you're getting in a little groove with the platforming or the enemies, and then you have to stop every 5 seconds to ground pound this or ground pound that. So again, that's why I'm not going to be going for every last puzzle piece, every last coin. Here is something that is new to Donkey Kong Country Returns. We are going into the background and then back into the foreground. Good thing that they put those barrels in the very first level. That's my favorite part of Donkey Kong Country actually, is barrel segments, when they have the intense rotating barrels, and you're shooting yourself, 6, 7, 8, 9 barrels in a row. That's awesome. I love that. I hope there's some really intense barrel segments. With hearts, it does make the game a little bit more forgiving in terms of enemies. Again, if you fall off a cliff, no dice there, no luck, doesn't matter how many hearts you have. But this just sort of reinforces my feeling that Donkey Kong is more about platforming, whereas Mario is more about interaction with enemies and maybe navigation. Donkey Kong, I feel, is just pure platforming. And if you look at some of these bird creatures and different things, they do look really, really well. And I think the overall aesthetic is nice. I'm not sure how I feel about the overlay, the sort of the cartoon, I like to call it the McDonald's version of Donkey Kong and Diddy up there in the top left corner. It serves its purpose, it does what it needs to do, so no complaining there. I know in different playthroughs that I've done in the past, some people will say, hey, stop talking in this part, or, no, keep talking the whole time. For Donkey Kong Country Returns, I'm just going to talk the entire time, because you're not missing much. You can hear the sound effects in the background, but trust me, there really is no epic monologue that you are going to be missing out on. So see, yeah, there, I only got 3 out of 9. I have no idea. I mean, it's hard for me to fathom that I missed 6 out of 9 puzzle pieces in that level. I don't know. I don't feel like there's that many places I could have gone. So here's our map screen. Very similar to New Super Mario's map screen, in fact. It almost, I feel, has some of the same exact sound effects. But here we go to King of Kling, level number 2. And this level is going to introduce vine climbing, another staple to the Donkey Kong Country franchise. As I was playing this game, I was starting to think about my Game of the Year selection for 2010. There's that annoying pig. Go away! I don't like you. Game of the Year 2010. Really tough, because some of my favorite games are, first quarter titles. Mass Effect 2. I really like Bioshock 2. I don't think that's Game of the Year, but, with Alan Wake, Red Dead coming not much, farther after, there's a lot to go back and play and look at, as opposed to being clouded by the recent, latest and greatest. So far, I've really loved Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I love Black Ops, and Halo Reach was equally fantastic. And Donkey Kong looks to be great as well. So I'm kind of wondering how I'm going to do Game of the Year this year. So I think what I'm actually going to do is probably record a little video with all of my top 5 or 7 candidates. Haven't decided yet. And then we'll go from there and lower it down and crown a 2010 Game of the Year title. Now, there's still Gran Turismo 5, which comes out next week, which I will be getting and covering, as well as Epic Mickey in a week and a half, which is another Wii title, of course. But it does look super promising and could be awesome. I'm not, platform biased whatsoever, except that pig is kind of driving me away from the Wii. Now, I won't hold it against you, Donkey Kong Country Returns, but I would appreciate if your little pig with glasses could get away. So here we are rolling, which is a nice little clever addition to your move arsenal. So yeah, I think I'm going to try to lower it down between 5 and 7 games, make a video on each, and then we will go from there and probably lower it down to a top 2 and pick my Game of the Year 2010 from there. So look forward to those videos in the coming weeks. I think I'll wait for Epic Mickey to be released, play that a little bit, and then we can get that kicked off with my Game of the Year process. So I'm really wondering how this is going to do sales-wise. New Super Mario Bros. Wii obviously did fantastic, and that was challenging in parts. But I feel like this is almost more hardcore than New Super Mario Bros. Just because anybody can kind of pick up a controller, see Mario, know to run left to right, jump over Goombas, clear gaps, collect some coins, and hit that end level flag. But I feel like there's a little bit more required of you here in Donkey Kong, even early on, with the ground pounding, the fist pounding there, avoiding the piranha plants that were apparently borrowed from the Mario franchise, collecting Diddy Kong, jumping on guys, etc. You got a life meter, or 4 life hearts. It's a lot more involved, maybe small scale involved, but definitely more involved. And it'll be interesting to see how well this does mass market wise, especially if the later levels are as hard as some reviewers claim for them to be. I've heard a lot of people using the Super Guide in DKCR that did not use it in Mario Galaxy or any other title. New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which featured the Super Guide. I'm hoping not to use it. I don't think I'll need to. I'm excited for a challenge, and that's what I loved about the original Donkey Kong, so I'm hoping this one can bring the heat equally as well. But, how's that going to do for an 8-year-old kid who gets Donkey Kong and doesn't have someone to play, be the main Donkey Kong while he beats Diddy, that he has to play through the whole game by himself? How's he going to like that? And there's a lot of, again, as you can see, hidden little sections, hidden little segments, and really, we could probably double the length of our playthrough if we ground pounded every little weird root, or whatever the heck those things are, sticking out of the ground, and look for every crevice to get through. But we're going to just get the main ones. If we see it, we'll go for it. But I'm not going to be so concerned, especially later on, with getting every last banana and every last coin or whatnot. And as I watch Diddy use his jetpack, I'm reminded of Donkey Kong 64, which I did not touch on at the beginning. We were talking about all the Donkey Kong games. That one is kind of a mixed bag for me. I really love the game. It was actually the title I got with my N64. I had an N64 at launch with Super Mario 64, and then I sold it to get a PlayStation 1. And then I bought back an N64, the see-through green bundle with Donkey Kong 64. And that game is very much in the vein of N64 games. That's kind of a very bland statement, but a million collectibles, a ton of crazy characters that don't belong, and you look back on it and it probably wasn't very well designed. Basically a Me Too Banjo-Kazooie, a Me Too Mario 64, though I will give it credit for being inventive. From the musical instruments that gave you certain power-ups, to the multiplayer mode, which was a bit of fun, with the guns. That's where Diddy originated his peanut pop guns, and Donkey Kong had his coconut blaster, and we cannot forget, of course, the Donkey Kong DK rap, which is forever burned into my brain. And something I always thought was weird about the DK rap was, for an E-rated game, they say he's one hell of a guy. And I don't know, not a big deal, of course, but it always stuck out as sort of a weird choice by Nintendo. Didn't seem very in line with their typical happy-go-lucky Mario, Donkey Kong, Link philosophy. Zelda, I'd say, is the darkest of the three, and there's nothing remotely, quote-unquote, PG even, really about that game. I don't know really what these spinny guys are. I'm assuming they're like sideways tikis. I'm having some trouble jumping up on these red leaf platforms here. And as we wrap this level up, we're going to wrap this video up. So I want to take this time to say thank you very much for watching, and please look forward to episode 2 of our Donkey Kong Country Returns playthrough very shortly. And check out my channel for all sorts of other videos. I've got Assassin's Creed Brotherhood up there, Call of Duty Black Ops. We're going to get some Sly Cooper collections soon. But until next time, we will see you later.